respectively holding those spots down. So that's where I begin this 25-game sprint to the finish, is thinking about those spots. I'm not thinking about just hanging on and making sure I can stave off Columbus or Washington or anybody else that's out there realistically lurking. Ottawa and Toronto are 7 points back. That's 2 points more than Columbus and Washington, who are 5 back. I think realistically everyone else out there is cooked. And I even don't feel great. I don't know why you would about Ottawa and Toronto, considering the way the teams at the top have been playing. But maybe that changes. Maybe that changes for the Sabres. Maybe that changes for Tampa or Montreal or Detroit or Boston. Teams that at various times through the holidays, through January especially, were just red hot. It's a good thing the Sabres had the hot stretch that they did, because they'd be down with Toronto and Ottawa if they hadn't. So they're 5 points clear. What is the thing? Is there a player on the team currently that you feel like is the biggest variable to them making it, or even, dare I say, Alex Tuck said it before the break, and I know they lost 3 of 4 after he said it. So, anyway, we're here to win the Stanley Cup. So I think second or third is realistic. I don't think they have it in them to track down Tampa. I think that would take another run of, 25 games like they just finished, even with the 3 out of 4 that they lost at the tail end of it. And that's too much for me to expect. Right. So, but I don't think being just 2 points behind with a game in hand on Detroit, by the way, Montreal and Buffalo play the same number of games going into the return to play tonight. I think it's perfectly realistic to think that this team could be good enough to finish in second or third place. And that is what the goal is. And I'm wondering what you think the biggest variable to that is on the current roster. There's the trade deadline to talk about, and we will certainly get to that eventually. In fact, I know Mike is going to be off this coming Monday, March 2nd, and the deadline is like a week after that, or even midweek. What is the date of the deadline? Zach, do you happen to know? Is it the 6th or the 9th? I have the 9th in my head.
It is the 6th.
The 6th, okay. So anyway, we're closing in on that. But that's a whole other conversation. Right now is presently constituted. I don't assume they won't make a buyer-type move at the deadline to try to supplement what they have already. But as currently constructed, who's the biggest variable on this roster? In other words, someone who could have a really positive impact if he can stay healthy. There, I gave it away. There's your clue. It's Josh Norris for me. Of course, the goaltending. The goaltending's been solid enough all year. I expect the goaltending, because of this team's overall defensive play, to be pretty much what it's been so far this year. And that has been Lyon and Luukkonen really when needed. Ellis has done well enough, certainly. But Lyon and Luukkonen is expected to get the start tonight after suffering an injury before the break, and he wasn't even healthy enough to go play in the Olympics for Finland, but he's back in tonight to get things rolling here in these final 25 games. I'm assuming a certain baseline level of goaltending, again, because of the team's overall defensive play. I feel, and I get some feedback in the first hour, and you can get in with that right here at 716-803-0550 if you are so inclined. Somebody mentioned Byram and Dahlin, and again, to me, those are guys that, while I think it would be dangerous to just take them for granted, I think what they've done all year to this point, provided they all stay healthy or relatively healthy enough to stay in the lineup, I am going to get them driving. They're the drivers to me, those top four, Power and Byram, Samuelson and Dahlin are, I've used the phrasing, it's the Sabres superpower. Like, it is the best thing about that team is those four dudes. We get to the trade deadline conversation, supplementing them so they don't have to play 23, 24 minutes a night would be really good. Maybe you get some help in that way from return from injury eventually, but that seems a little ways off. I think the deadline's going to come before they really get anyone back. I know Kesselring, I think, is going to be back, and I just hope he can stay healthy. This has been really a lost year for him. So I think, supplementing what they've got there is an idea. Not that anyone's going to displace those top four. They to me, are also a given. Josh Norris, to me, is the variable. And to me, it's a pretty easy answer. Again, you might worry about Luukkonen or Lyon. And I'm not telling you they're made in the shade there. I just think they've been a certain level of good all year. And if they're in the lineup, I think I'm going to continue to get a certain level of good. Norris, to me, is an excellent player, an absolute difference maker when he is in the lineup. The problem is him staying in the lineup. Like, he just cannot stay in the lineup. And so having him, and he is back. He is off of IR. The Sabres have moved a couple of players, Greenway and Benson, I think in the last hour or so, to IR because they've activated Luukkonen, who will start tonight, we expect, and Josh Norris, who's going to be in the lineup. It's not a huge sample. It's only 19 games. That's all Norris has played this year. But the sweet spot of him being in the lineup, save for the opening night 4-0 loss to the New York Rangers when he exited late in the game with an injury that would then keep him out for many months. He's played 19 games, and it's right in the sweet spot of the hot streak. They are 13-6 in those 19 games. That's not incredibly lopsided, but it's a hearty good record. And this is a player that I still think we have barely ever really talked about. Because, it's another reason I like him for my answer to this question. Like, who's the biggest variable right now for the Sabres in this stretch run? Because he got here at the trade deadline of the 14th lost season in a row. There was no, when he gets here, maybe we can get hot and make the playoffs. The Sabres were buried. They were DOA when Josh Norris got. They're not doing anything last year. He gets here, played 3 games, got hurt. So off season comes and goes. He's in the lineup to start the season and can't even get out of game 1, and he's hurt again. And he came back. He got hurt again, and is now healthy. Right? He got cross-checked. It was one of those games in Florida, I think. He left. And so the timing and his return to the lineup in late winter there, or late winter. We're in late winter now, idiot. Early winter. Norris's return. They weren't really hot yet, and we were barely talking about the Sabres because the Bills were in the playoffs, and we were just extremely preoccupied with the Bills, and the light hadn't really gone on yet for the Sabres. Like, as a subject to talk about, honestly, and expect people to engage in it. We're living through a time period where it became very evident to the people that sit in rooms like this one hosting radio shows that talking about the Sabres in a meaningful sports way was a tune-out. Like, all there really was to do was complain about them and be mad about them, and that by the time, even before the end of last season, this happened to me, it started to feel like performance art if you could still actually get emotionally invested and upset about them. Because it had just become so a part of the experience that they were going to be terrible that you couldn't even really get mad anymore. Like, it's more like a non-entity is what it became. And that did not change until that hot streak they got on here. and that vaulted them in, up the standings as high as, I think, at one point second place in the division. They have since regressed a little and are holding down the top wildcard spot. But as I said to start the segment, only 2 points out of second or third in the division, held down by Montreal and Detroit, respectively. But they needed that to get us talking. And so a part of that was us not really, hey, look, Josh Norris is back, and boy, he made some really great plays. Those things might have gotten mentioned in, a little more inside baseball for you, in the short segments near the top of the hour. Hey, did you see the Sabres game last night? Yeah, Norris made a couple nice plays. Yeah, boy, I sure hope they can keep it up. Okay, back to talking about, Josh Allen and the Bills and the playoffs. Like those are our lives, in here. So as a subject, I don't feel like we've talked about Josh Norris for 20 minutes since he got traded here. I'm sure we did a little more than that. But I was on the air trade deadline day last year by myself, and I know I talked about him for more than 20 minutes then. But you get the point. It's not a guy that we have really gotten to know yet and appreciate what he is when he's in the lineup, because it's not even been 20 games this year. But 13-6, is the record in the 19 games he's played this year. He's an excellent 200-foot player. And really, to me, if Thompson continues to play center, that's your top line. But Norris is just as capable. In fact, the year started with him holding down the top line spot, and Thompson was on a wing to begin the year. But I'm just going a long way to say, like, Norris to me is my easy answer for variable heading into these final 25 games, because I think he's got a skill set that is top shelf. He's a fantastic skater. He's a very good passer and puck handler. He's got an excellent shot. He's a finisher. I mean, he's everything. And he's a good defensive player. He's a good on the draw. Excuse me, sorry about that. It just snuck up on me and I couldn't hit the button. So that's a player to me. If he can stay in your lineup for these 25 games, I'd be stunned if the Sabres didn't make it. That's the kind of impact I think he can have. If everything else that I'm assuming, isn't a variable, isn't, right? The goaltending doesn't fall apart. Something doesn't happen to the top 4D. They do supplement the defense core with a move at some point or another, and hopefully, get some more quality minutes out of a third pair, because if there is, all weakness here, I think on this team this year, it has been, sort of trying to shelter that third pair, while those big guys up top sort of handle all of the heavy minutes. So that's where I'm at. I mean, I'm really, really thinking about Norris for that. 803-0550 in the 716 area code is where we are at.